Good afternoon. Today I'm going to talk about decarbonizing transportation. Thank you for the organizers for arranging this time. In today's talk, I will spend this 7 to 8 minutes on two areas. Firstly, how we can decarbonize from a somewhat macro view, and later share a few examples of how innovation can help in this journey. Firstly, I think there should be no doubt that we need to decarbonize. And transport plays an important role because it is the second largest emitter of greenhouse gas after power. We see in this space two trends. One is what we call power to X, where we store or perhaps convert excess power from renewables, very important because renewables is forming a larger share of the grid, into a form that can be transported and used later. In this space, we see ammonia, but lately for sure hydrogen, which is generated through electrolysis, hence green hydrogen, which has implication for transport, but we think that it will be first used in power generation as a fuel mix. Secondly, more towards transportation, we see the increasing electrification of sectors. And this is where we call sector coupling. And we have seen this in heat supply. Instead of using, for instance, fossil fuel to heat cities, electricity is being used more and more. But more so lately in the increasing focus of electrification of the transport sector. There's two benefits for sure. One is utilizing the lower carbon content of electricity. Secondly, electricity as a form of propulsion certainly has a higher overall energy efficiency than your ICE or internal combustion engine. As a company, we are doing this because what we call our environmental portfolio, we help customers electrify, sector coupling, we help customers automate the operations to increase the efficiency, and certainly we help them to digitalize to get more out of what they have, further reducing emissions. And with this approach, last year, we have helped customers reduce 609 million tons of CO2 globally. Not a small number considering that Hong Kong's CO2 emissions is about 40 million or so. But of course, the main topic is electrification of transportation system, or lately a lot of focus electrification of cars. But I beg to differ because simply electrifying cars will not get us to zero carbon. As the chart on the left shows, while electrification of a car, like the green car in the middle, does reduce substantially the carbon content, carbon emissions, it does not get us to net zero for sure, because I have to say we are still not at net zero for the grid, and certainly whether we reach net zero in 2050 for electricity is still debatable. However, we then have to look at other ways to reduce carbon beyond conversion of electric drives. So the right hand is what we call, you need to take a multi-layer approach. Firstly, for sure, we need to reduce CO2 per kilometer, such as emission standards today are already doing. By the way, the EU will mandate 95 grams per kilometer by end of this year. But 95 grams is still a lot, so how do you get that down? This is where electric drives come in, because the higher efficiency of electric drives, which is 3 times ICE, about 90% versus about 25-30%, we can substantially reduce the carbon emission per kilometer, 1/3. Is that enough? Unfortunately, not enough. 1/3 is still not zero. We further reduce the efficiency by transportation modes, such as instead of having people travel in a car, which is why I say electric cars will not get us there, we encourage people to take public transport. Then we multiply the kilometer per kilowatt hour by the number of passengers, substantially reducing. As you can see on the left-hand side, a train system only 14 grams. But is that the end? No, because experts have said, really, the true zero carbon transportation is not having to travel or walking. And this is where this concept of 15-minute cities come in, where you design a city or zone which has work, which has leisure, which has residence, so that people do not do long commutes that unfortunately contributes to carbon emission. So in the next few slides, I will share with you a few examples of how innovation can contribute in each layer. Firstly, in the public transportation, for sure, buses will remain a form of city travel, and electrifying of buses is a big topic, with many cities already doing so. But one of the challenges, of course, is charging and battery capacity. So what if, instead of charging once a day or at night and traveling that 200 kilometers and 300 kilometers a day, which is not enough for most cities, I charge in the day during the journey, either at midpoints or at the two ends. This is what we call opportunity charging, taking the opportunity to charge 2 to 3 minutes. What is the benefit of doing that? Firstly, I reduce the need for depots, thousands of buses in the depot with thousands of chargers. Secondly, I, very importantly, reduce the battery capacity, the number of batteries on the buses. So instead of having batteries, I can have more passengers. Or in Hong Kong's case, I can truly make double-decker electric buses work, because one of the issues with double-decker buses is it is so heavy that after you put in a battery, you can actually not make it feasible. The next innovation I like to talk about is charging. Of course, for owners of e-vehicles, one of the barriers of adoption is, for sure, the number of charging points. And therefore, a lot of investment is being made to build charging facilities throughout cities. What if you use existing infrastructure, like a lamppost which already has electricity supply? You enhance that with a cable that takes care of payment and also booking, and you in effect have a full-scale charger without the need to build additional infrastructure and without the need to install dedicated charger. So something to think about. Last but not least, this is a big what if. What if instead of troubling the commuter with what I have just said, we offer to the commuter a service, which at its basic is transportation, enabling them to move from door to door. You don't need to worry about what is a mode. You don't need to worry about paying. Of course, it's done online. So this is what we call MaaS, Mobility as a Service, which allows seamless integration of trip planning, booking, and ticketing. So you don't need to pay with every operator. And it tells you where you get to precisely at what time. I think it will be good. And it will change the behavior for sure towards public transportation. Something that I said a few slides ago is a key. So I'll end my short presentation with a thought that perhaps if we want to decarbonize transport, we need really a multi-layer approach, not so much focusing too much on electric vehicles alone, because public transport is very important, and innovation will be essential to achieve the exponential gains needed, because we only have 30-odd years or so before we need to be carbon neutral. Thank you.